The moment I opened my daughter's bedroom door and saw the empty garment bag hanging on her closet, I felt my world tilt on its axis. 6 months. 6 months of hand-stitching every single bead. 6 months of measuring, adjusting, perfecting. 6 months of creating not just a dress, but a legacy. The final design my late husband sketched before cancer took him from us. And it was gone. In its place, hanging like a ghost from another era, was a yellowed, moth-eaten wedding dress from 1987. Beside it, a note on expensive cream cardstock written in Veronica's distinctive looping script, family tradition. David's bride will wear my dress. You should be honored. V. My hands trembled as I held that note, not from fear, not from shock, from rage so pure, so cold, it felt like ice crystallizing in my veins. Veronica Ashworth had just made the biggest mistake of her life, but there was something Veronica didn't know, something she couldn't have known because I'd spent the last decade living quietly, invisibly, raising my daughter in the shadows of my former life. She had no idea who I really was. Let me tell you how I got here. How a woman once known as Margaret Chen Laurent, head designer for Maison Laurent in Paris, one of the most prestigious fashion houses in the world, ended up living above a tailor shop in suburban Connecticut, hemming pants for $12 an hour. It started, like so many stories do, with love. I met James Chen at a fashion show in Milan when I was 28 and he was 31. He was an architect. I was already making my mark in haute couture, designing pieces that walked red carpets and graced magazine covers. We fell hard and fast, married within a year, and welcomed our daughter Emma 2 years later. Those were golden years. James would sketch buildings, I would sketch dresses, and Emma would scribble on every piece of paper she could find. "She's an artist like her parents," James would say, kissing the top of her dark curls. We had 15 beautiful years before the diagnosis, stage 4 pancreatic cancer. 6 months to live, they said. James lasted 7, fighting every single day. In his final weeks, too weak to hold a pen himself, he dictated to me. "For Emma's wedding," he whispered, his voice papery and thin. "When she finds love like we did, she should wear something magical." He described it in detail. The neckline, the way the fabric should flow, the cascade of pearls down the back like falling stars. I sketched as he spoke, tears blurring the page. It was the last design he ever gave me. After James died, I couldn't go back to Paris. Every runway show, every fashion house, every bolt of fabric reminded me of what I'd lost. Emma needed stability, not a mother jetting between fashion weeks. So I retired at 42, took his life insurance money, and bought a small house in Hartford. I got a job at a local tailor shop, simple alterations and fixes. No one knew who I used to be. No one cared. I became invisible by choice. Emma grew up happy, healthy, unburdened by the weight of my past fame. She went to community college, became a kindergarten teacher, and at 25 she met David Ashworth at a friend's barbecue. David seemed kind. He was an accountant, steady and reliable. When he proposed on Emma's 26th birthday, 6 months ago, she was radiant. "Mom," she cried, hugging me tight. "Mom, I'm so happy." That's when I pulled out James's design. "Sweetheart," I said, unfolding the yellowed sketch, "your father made this for you." Emma's face crumpled with joy and grief and love. "Can you make it, Mom? Can you really make it?" "I'll create the most beautiful dress anyone has ever seen," I promised. And I did. For 6 months, I poured every ounce of skill, love, and memory into that gown. French Alençon lace imported from a supplier I'd worked with for decades. Hand-beaded crystals arranged in constellations across the bodice, pearl buttons down the spine, each one sewn with a surgeon's precision. The train flowed like water, exactly as James had imagined. It was worth $50,000, easily, but to me, it was priceless. It was James's last gift to our daughter. It was love made tangible, stitched into silk and satin, and Veronica Ashworth stole it. I should have seen it coming. The warning signs were there from the moment we met David's family. Veronica Ashworth was everything I'd learned to avoid in my years at the top of the fashion world. Entitled, status-obsessed, and cruel in the way only insecure people can be. She lived in a McMansion in West Hartford's wealthiest subdivision, drove a white Mercedes with vanity plates that read "Blessed," and treated service staff like they were invisible. At our first dinner together, she looked at my simple cotton dress and sensible shoes with barely concealed disdain. "So, Margaret," she said, her voice dripping with false sweetness, "Emma tells me you're a seamstress?" She pronounced it like dishwasher or janitor, occupations she clearly felt were beneath notice. "I do alterations," I replied calmly, "and some custom work." "How quaint," she said, already dismissing me. She turned to David. "Your father and I are so thrilled you're marrying up, darling. Emma's a teacher. So respectable. Much better than those cocktail waitresses you used to date." Emma's cheeks flushed red. David said nothing, just gave his mother an indulgent smile. That should have been my first red flag. Over the following months, Veronica inserted herself into every aspect of the wedding planning. She suggested the venue, her country club, naturally. She recommended the caterer, the florist, the photographer. Each time Emma tried to assert her own wishes, Veronica would sigh dramatically and say, "Well, I suppose if you don't want our help paying for this wedding—" David's father, Robert, was writing the checks, you see, and Veronica held those purse strings like a leash. But the dress was supposed to be sacred. Emma told Veronica firmly, repeatedly, that her mother was making her gown. "It's special, Mrs. Ashworth," Emma said. "My father designed it before he died. It means everything to us." Veronica's response? How sweet. "But you know, the Ashworth family has traditions. All our brides wear the Ashworth dress." "What Ashworth dress?" Emma asked. "My wedding dress, of course. It's a family heirloom." Veronica beamed. "I wore it in 1987. My mother-in-law wore it in 1963. It's simply tradition, dear." Emma politely but firmly declined. David backed her up, probably the only time in 6 months he'd contradicted his mother. "Mom," he said, "Emma wants to wear her dad's dress. It's important to her." Veronica's smile never wavered, but her eyes went cold. "We'll see," she said. 2 weeks before the wedding, I was at the market buying produce when Veronica must have let herself into my house. Emma was at school. I'd never given the Ashworths a key, but Veronica had borrowed Emma's copy, claiming she wanted to help coordinate some wedding deliveries. When I returned home, I knew immediately something was wrong. The front door was unlocked. I always locked it. As I climbed the stairs to Emma's room, my heart started to race. That's when I found the empty garment bag, and Veronica's dress, and that damn note. I stood there for 10 minutes, unable to move, unable to breathe. That dress represented everything. My love for Emma, James's final gift, years of skill and artistry. It was irreplaceable, and she'd just taken it. When Emma came home and saw her empty closet, she broke down. Great, heaving sobs that shook her whole body. "Mom," she choked out between cries. "Mom, what are we going to do? The wedding's in 2 weeks. Where's my dress? Where's Dad's dress?" I called David immediately. His response was disappointing. "Let me talk to my mom," he said, his voice weak and uncertain. An hour later, he called back. "Look, Emma, my mother says she's just trying to include you in the family. The dress is at her house. She wants you to try it on. Maybe you'll like it." "David, she stole my dress," Emma said, her voice cracking. "She broke into my house and took something irreplaceable." "She used a key," David protested weakly. "That's not technically breaking in. Look, Em, I know it seems extreme, but you know how my mom gets about family traditions, and she is paying for most of the wedding." And there it was, the implicit threat: wear the dress or lose the wedding funding. Emma looked at me with devastated eyes. "Mom, what do I do? We already sent the invitations. The venue's booked, the deposit's paid, with their money. If we cancel now, we'll lose everything." I wanted to tell her to call off the wedding, to run from this family that clearly had no respect for her or her boundaries. But I could see the conflict in her face. She loved David, even if his mother was a nightmare. "Go try on the dress," I said quietly. "We'll figure this out." The next day, Emma and I went to Veronica's house. She greeted us at the door wearing a silk caftan and far too much jewelry, her smile triumphant. "Emma, darling, come see how beautiful you'll look in the family dress." The dress was a disaster. Yellowed with age, the polyester satin fabric puckered and stained. The shoulders had massive puffy sleeves that went out of style 3 decades ago. The bodice was encrusted with yellowing plastic pearls that had started to crack. The whole thing smelled like mothballs and mildew. Emma put it on with shaking hands. It hung on her like a sack. Veronica had been 20 pounds heavier in 1987. The hem dragged on the ground. One of the sleeves had a visible moth hole. "You look perfect," Veronica gushed. "Just like I did. David, come see." David came downstairs, took one look at Emma's face, tear-stained and miserable, and said, "You look beautiful, honey." Then he went back upstairs without another word. That night, I heard Emma crying in her room. When I knocked and entered, she was sitting on her bed, holding a photo of James. "Dad would have stood up for me," she whispered. "He would have told them where to go." "Yes," I said, "he would have." She looked up at me, her eyes red and swollen. "Should I cancel the wedding?" I sat beside her, pulling her close. "That's your decision, sweetheart, but I promise you this. Veronica Ashworth is going to regret what she's done. She's going to regret it for the rest of her life." "How?" Emma asked. I smiled, not a warm smile, a cold, calculated smile. Because Veronica doesn't know who I am, and by the time she finds out, it will be too late. That night, after Emma finally fell asleep, I went to my office. In the back of my closet, behind boxes of fabric and old sketches, was a leather portfolio I hadn't opened in 10 years. Inside were photographs. Me standing with Anna Wintour at the Met Gala, me fitting Beyoncé for a custom gown, me accepting the CFDA Designer of the Year award, business cards from every major fashion editor, designer, and stylist in the world, and phone numbers, so many phone numbers. I pulled out my cell phone and scrolled through my contacts until I found the one I needed, Elena Russo. Elena had been my assistant at Maison Laurent 15 years ago. Now she was the editor-in-chief of Bridal Vogue, the most prestigious wedding magazine in the world. We'd kept in touch sporadically over the years, the occasional email, Christmas cards. She'd sent flowers when James died. It was 11 p.m., but Elena had always been a night owl. I called. "Margaret Chen Laurent," Elena answered, not even a hint of surprise in her voice. "After all these years, this must be important." "Elena," I said, "I need a favor, and I need it to be creative." I told her everything, about Emma's wedding, about James's design, about Veronica's theft. When I finished, there was a long pause. Then Elena laughed, not a polite chuckle, a real, delighted laugh. "Oh, Margaret," she said, "this is going to be magnificent. Tell me exactly what you need." The next morning, I called another number, Pierre Beaumont. Pierre had been my design intern at Maison Laurent, a shy young man from Marseille with raw talent and no connections. I'd taken him under my wing, taught him everything I knew. Now at 35, he was one of the most sought-after designers in Hollywood, dressing A-listers for the Oscars. "Marguerite," he answered in French, using my old nickname. "How long has it been?" "Too long, mon ami. I need your help with something special, and I need it fast." When I explained what had happened, Pierre went silent. Then, "She stole James's design, his last design for Emma?" His voice was tight with anger. Pierre had met James, had attended our wedding. "Send me the sketches. I'll have my team start immediately. It will be ready." Pierre, it's less than 2 weeks. Marguerite, I'm going to recreate James's masterpiece. And when I'm done, it will make Veronica's rag look like a Halloween costume. This is my gift to Emma, to you, to James's memory. I hung up, tears streaming down my face. These people, my old colleagues, my friends, remembered. They cared. But I wasn't done. The day after Veronica's theft, I went to the police station. I brought documentation, receipts for materials, $12,000 in imported fabrics alone, photos of the dress in progress, James's original sketches dated 10 years prior. I filed a report for grand larceny and breaking and entering. The officer taking my statement, Detective John Morrison, looked skeptical. "Ma'am, how is a dress worth $50,000? I smiled and pulled out my phone. "Detective, let me show you my portfolio." His eyes widened as he scrolled through images, magazine covers, red carpet photos, celebrity testimonials. You're the Margaret Chen. My wife follows your work. She has a book of your designs." I said quietly. "Now I'm just a mother whose daughter's wedding dress was stolen." Detective Morrison became very attentive. "Do you have security footage?" "I do now," I said. Because the day before, I'd installed a small security camera in Emma's room, pointed at the closet. I showed him the timestamp, Veronica entering at 2:17 p.m., leaving at 2:42 p.m. with a large garment bag. "Mrs. Chen," Detective Morrison said, "this is clear evidence of a crime. I'll issue a warrant for the dress's return immediately." "Actually," I said, "I'd like to hold off on that warrant, just for a week or so. There are some circumstances that need to play out first." He looked confused but nodded. "You're the victim. You decide when we move forward. But Mrs. Chen, when you're ready, we'll get your dress back, and Mrs. Ashworth will face charges." "Oh, she'll face more than charges," I said softly. Over the next week, I laid my traps carefully. First, I needed intelligence. Emma's maid of honor, Sarah, had become close with David's sister, Jessica, and Jessica, it turned out, despised her mother. "She's unbearable," Jessica told me over coffee one afternoon. "She's been planning David's wedding since he was 12. Emma's just a prop to her, a way to show off to her friends." "Does your mother talk about the wedding a lot?" I asked carefully. "Are you kidding? She won't shut up about it. She's been calling everyone. Her friends, her book club, her tennis partners. She wants press coverage. She's been begging fashion magazines to cover it, but none of them will return her calls." Jessica rolled her eyes. "She's obsessed with getting into the social pages. She thinks David's wedding is her ticket to high society." "Perfect." I called Elena back. "I need you to reach out to Veronica Ashworth. Tell her Bridal Vogue wants to feature her son's wedding." Elena laughed. "Margaret, you're diabolical. I love it. What's her number?" The next day, Veronica called Emma, barely able to contain her excitement. "Emma, Bridal Vogue just called me. They want to feature your wedding. Can you believe it? We're going to be in a national magazine." Emma glanced at me. I nodded subtly. "That's wonderful, Mrs. Ashworth," Emma said flatly. "They're sending a photographer to the rehearsal dinner, and they want to interview me about my family traditions and the dress. Oh, Emma, this is everything I dreamed of." Meanwhile, I had other calls to make. The wedding was being held at Veronica's country club, the Hartford Elite Club. The event coordinator, Marcus Webb, had been dealing with Veronica for months. When I called him and asked to meet, he sounded exhausted. "Mrs. Chen," he said when we met at a nearby Starbucks, "if you're calling to make more changes on Veronica's behalf, I need you to know we're at capacity. She's already altered the menu 4 times, changed the table arrangement 6 times, and—" "Marcus," I interrupted gently, "I'm not here on Veronica's behalf. I'm here because she stole my daughter's wedding dress, and I'm going to need your help fixing what she broke." His eyes widened. "She what?" I told him everything. When I finished, Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "Mrs. Chen, that woman has been a nightmare to work with. She treats my staff like servants. She snaps her fingers and expects us to jump. If there's anything I can do to help you, just ask. Actually, I said, there are a few things I need. Over the next hour, we planned. Marcus would handle the logistics. He'd make sure certain people had access to the venue. He'd coordinate timing. He'd ensure Emma had a private room for the surprise. And one more thing, I said. I need you to drastically cut Veronica's guest list. I can't do that, Marcus said. She's paying. You're not cutting her guests. You're making room for mine. I showed him a list, 30 names, fashion editors, designers, stylists, photographers, some of the most influential people in the industry. Marcus stared at the names. These people are they're famous. How do you know? Then understanding dawned on his face. Wait, Margaret Chen. Oh my God, you're that Margaret Chen, the designer? I was, I said. Now I'm just a mother who wants her daughter to have a perfect wedding. Can you help me? Mrs. Chen, Marcus said, grinning. It will be my absolute pleasure. The week before the wedding, Veronica threw a small engagement party at her house. She insisted we attend. Just family and close friends, she'd said. 40 people showed up. Veronica held court in her living room, showing off photos of her wedding dress, the one Emma was being forced to wear. It's a family tradition, she kept saying. All Ashworth brides wear this dress. Emma is so honored to be part of the tradition. Emma sat silently beside David, her smile brittle and fake. I watched my daughter's joy being slowly drained away and felt my resolve harden. One of Veronica's friends, a woman dripping in diamonds and condescension, turned to me. And you're the bride's mother. What do you do? I do alterations, I said simply. Oh. The woman's face flickered with barely concealed disdain. How practical. Veronica mentioned you'd made some attempt at a wedding dress for Emma, but of course the family dress is so much more appropriate, so much history. Yes, I said, my voice soft and even. History is very important, but so is knowing your place. The woman blinked, unsure if I'd just insulted her. Before she could respond, Veronica swept over, practically glowing. Margaret, I just got the most wonderful news. Bridal Vogue wants to do a full spread on the wedding. They're sending their top photographer. Can you imagine? How wonderful for you, I said. They want to interview me about my dress, about the tradition, about raising David. It's going to be a feature story. My wedding will be in Bridal Vogue. She was practically vibrating with excitement. That's quite an honor, I said. Bridal Vogue is very prestigious. They have very high standards. Well, they obviously recognize quality when they heard about our family. Veronica preened. Then she leaned in, lowering her voice. Between you and me, Margaret, I'm so glad we sorted out that silly dress situation. Emma's going to look beautiful in my dress, far better than she would have in, well, you understand. I looked at her, really looked at her. This woman who had stolen my daughter's joy, my husband's final gift, my months of work, this woman who thought she could buy and bully her way into respect. Veronica, I said quietly, do you know what the hardest part of fashion design is? She blinked, confused by the question. What? It's knowing that no matter how beautiful the dress, how perfect the stitching, how exquisite the fabric, if you put it on the wrong person, it will always look cheap. I smiled. Elegance isn't something you can buy or steal. It's something you either have or you don't. Veronica's smile faltered. What are you trying to say? Just that I hope the Bridal Vogue photographer captures everything accurately. They're very good at showing people's true nature. I walked away, leaving her looking confused and slightly unsettled. 3 days before the wedding, Pierre sent me photos. The dress was finished. It was breathtaking, better even than the original. The beadwork caught light like stars. The lace flowed like water. Every detail was perfection. Emma will look like a princess, Pierre texted. No, Like a queen. James would be so proud. I showed Emma the photos that night. She stared at them, tears streaming down her face. Mom, how? When? I called in some favors, I said. This is your dress, your father's dress, and you're going to wear it down that aisle. But Veronica is going to learn a very important lesson about respect. Trust me, sweetheart. Just trust me. Emma hugged me tight. I trust you, Mom. I've always trusted you. The rehearsal dinner was held at the country club 2 nights before the wedding. Veronica had spared no expense: champagne towers, caviar stations, a string quartet. About 60 people attended. What Veronica didn't know was that 15 of those people were my guests, invited by Marcus. Fashion editors, designers, industry insiders. They blended in perfectly. Wealthy, well-dressed, polite. Veronica didn't question their presence. Elena Russo arrived with her photographer, a young woman named Sophie who'd won awards for her wedding photography. Veronica practically threw herself at them. Ms. Russo, oh my goodness, I'm Veronica Ashworth. Thank you so much for coming. I'm just so honored that Bridal Vogue is interested in our wedding. Elena smiled coolly. Mrs. Ashworth, yes, we're very interested. We've heard quite a bit about your family traditions. Oh yes, the dress. Wait until you see it. It's been in the family for generations, Veronica gushed. I can't wait, Elena said. Her eyes found mine across the room, and she gave me the slightest wink. During dinner, Veronica stood to make a speech. She tapped her champagne glass with a knife, and the room fell silent. I just want to say how blessed we are, Veronica began, her voice dripping with false emotion. My baby boy is getting married, and Emma, sweet Emma, is joining our family. We're so happy to welcome her, to share our traditions with her. She held up her phone, showing a photo of herself in the wedding dress from 1987. This is the Ashworth family wedding dress. My mother-in-law wore it, I wore it, and in 2 days Emma will wear it. It represents continuity, family, tradition. It represents becoming an Ashworth. I watched Emma's face. She was smiling, but her eyes were dead. Veronica continued, I know Emma's mother tried to make her a dress. That's very sweet. But family traditions are more important than hobbyist efforts. She laughed, and several of her friends joined in. I felt all eyes in the room turn to me. The fashion insiders stiffened. Elena's face went hard. One of the designers at a nearby table, Vivienne Dupont, leaned over and whispered, Is she talking about you? I nodded silently. Vivienne's jaw dropped. That woman just called Margaret Chen Laurent a hobbyist. The whispers spread like wildfire through my guests. Shock, disbelief, anger. But I just smiled and raised my champagne glass. To family traditions, I said softly. Elena caught my eye and mouthed, She's done. After dinner, Elena pulled Veronica aside for an interview. I watched from across the room as Veronica preened and posed, completely oblivious to the trap closing around her. Tell me about the dress, Elena said, her voice recorder running. The one Emma's mother made. Why did you decide the family dress was more appropriate? Well, Veronica said, Emma's mother is just a seamstress. Sweet woman, but no real sense of style or occasion. The dress she made was very homemade. Craft fair quality, if you know what I mean. I knew Emma deserved something with real history and prestige, so I took matters into my own hands. You took matters into your own hands? Elena repeated, her eyes gleaming. I went to their house and removed the homemade dress, replaced it with my family heirloom. Emma was resistant at first, but she came around when she understood the honor of wearing an Ashworth family dress. Elena's smile was razor sharp. How fascinating. And Emma's mother, did she consent to this? Veronica waved her hand dismissively. I didn't ask, she's just the bride's mother. I'm paying for the wedding, and family traditions matter more than the feelings of outsiders. Fascinating, Elena said. This will make quite a story. Thank you so much for your candor, Mrs. Ashworth. As the evening wound down, I pulled Emma aside. Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m., meet me at the bridal suite at the club. Come alone, don't tell David, don't tell anyone. Mom, what? Trust me, I said. Tomorrow, everything changes. Wedding day dawned clear and bright. Perfect weather for justice. At 9 a.m. sharp, Emma arrived at the bridal suite. Sarah was with her. I'd told Emma to bring her maid of honor. Marcus had made sure the room was completely private, no interruptions. In the center of the room, hanging on a professional dress form, was the dress, the real dress. James's design, recreated by Pierre's masterful hands. Emma stopped in the doorway, her hand flying to her mouth. Mom, is that your dress? I said. Your father's dress, the one you were always meant to wear. She moved toward it like a sleepwalker, reaching out to touch the fabric. The crystals caught the morning light, sending rainbow sparkles across the walls. It's even more beautiful than the photos. Mom, how? I had help from an old friend, Pierre Beaumont. He was my protégé in Paris. Now he's one of the best designers in the world. He recreated this as a gift, for you, for James. Emma was crying now, but they were tears of joy. But Mom, Veronica will be furious. Veronica, I said calmly, is about to have a very educational experience. Now come on, let's get you ready. You have a wedding to attend. For the next 2 hours, Sarah and I helped Emma into the dress. It fit like it was made for her, because of course it was. Every measurement perfect, every detail exquisite. When she looked at herself in the mirror, Emma started crying again. I look like Dad would have wanted, she whispered. You look like yourself, I said. Beautiful, strong, loved. At 11 a.m., Marcus knocked on the door. Mrs. Chen, Mrs. Ashworth is looking for Emma. She wants her to start getting dressed in the other dress. Tell Mrs. Ashworth that Emma will see her at the ceremony, I said. Not before. 20 minutes later, Veronica herself appeared at the door, barging in without knocking. Emma, what are you? She stopped dead, stared. Her face went through a fascinating journey. Confusion, recognition, rage, panic. What is that? She shrieked, pointing at Emma's dress. That's not my dress. You're supposed to be wearing my dress. I'm wearing my father's dress, Emma said, her voice steady and clear. The one he designed for me. The one my mother created for me. But the tradition, the Ashworth dress. Veronica was sputtering now, her carefully applied makeup starting to run. I told everyone, the magazine is here. You can't wear that dress. Yes, I said calmly, stepping forward. About the magazine and about my daughter's dress. Veronica, we need to talk. I don't need to talk to you. Veronica turned on me, her face twisted with rage. You ruined everything. You and your homemade disaster of a dress. I fixed this situation. I gave Emma something with class, with history. You stole from my home, I said, my voice cold. You broke in and took something irreplaceable, something that meant everything to my family. I didn't break in, I had a key, and I was doing you a favor. That dress was embarrassing. Everyone would have laughed at Emma. The door opened. Detective Morrison stepped in along with another officer. Mrs. Veronica Ashworth? Detective Morrison said. Veronica whirled around. Who are you? This is a private room. I'm paying for this wedding. Detective John Morrison, Hartford PD. Mrs. Ashworth, I have a warrant for your arrest on charges of breaking and entering and grand larceny. Veronica's face went white. What? That's ridiculous. I didn't steal anything. Mrs. Ashworth, Detective Morrison said, pulling out a tablet and showing her the security footage. This is video from Mrs. Chen's home security camera. It shows you entering the residence on October 15th at 2:17 p.m. and leaving at 2:42 p.m. with a large garment bag. The dress you removed was valued at $50,000. $50,000! Veronica laughed, but it was shrill and panicked. For a homemade dress? That's absurd. Margaret's just a seamstress. She works at a tailor shop. Actually, Elena Russo said, stepping into the room with her photographer, Margaret is Margaret Chen Laurent, former head designer for Maison Laurent in Paris. winner of 4 CFDA awards, designer to celebrities, royalty, and heads of state, one of the most respected fashion designers in the world. Veronica's mouth opened and closed like a fish. What? No, that's not. Margaret's just. Mrs. Ashworth, Elena continued. I'm Elena Russo, editor-in-chief of Bridal Vogue. We've been documenting everything for a feature story, but not the story you thought we were writing. She held up her phone, showing Veronica the article draft. The headline read, The Wedding Dress Thief, How One Mother's Greed Destroyed Her Son's Special Day. Veronica grabbed for the phone. You can't publish that. I'll sue. Everything in this article is factual and based on your own recorded statements, Elena said coolly. You admitted to entering Mrs. Chen's home without permission, taking the dress, and refusing to return it. You called one of the world's most renowned designers a hobbyist. You tried to force your daughter-in-law to abandon her late father's final gift. It's all here, Mrs. Ashworth, in your own words. Veronica's legs seemed to give out. She sank into a chair, her face ashen. No, 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 no. This can't be happening. The wedding, my friends, the country club. Mrs. Ashworth, Detective Morrison said gently but firmly, I need you to come with us now. But the wedding. It's in 30 minutes. I'm the mother of the groom. You can't arrest me now. Mom, what's going on? David stood in the doorway, his face pale. Behind him was his father Robert and his sister Jessica. David, baby, this is all a misunderstanding. Veronica rushed toward him. Tell them I was just trying to help, to preserve family traditions. David looked at Emma in her dress, then at his mother, then at the police officers. Mom, what did you do? She broke into our house, Emma said quietly. She stole the dress my father designed, the dress my mother spent 6 months creating. She took it and tried to force me to wear that yellowed thing from 1987 instead. Emma, you don't understand, Veronica started. I understand perfectly, David said, his voice shaking. Jesus, Mom, what were you thinking? He looked at Emma. I am so sorry. I should have stood up to her weeks ago. Jessica stepped forward. Mom's been impossible for months. We all knew it, but Dad and David kept making excuses. I'm sorry, Emma. I should have warned you. Robert Ashworth, who'd been silent until now, looked at his wife with something like disgust. Veronica, you stole from them. You actually broke into their home? I was preserving tradition, Veronica shouted. I was making sure our family looked respectable. You should all be thanking me. Mrs. Ashworth, Detective Morrison said, moving toward her with handcuffs. We really need to go now. Veronica looked wildly around the room, searching for an ally, finding none. You can't do this. I have rights. Robert, call our lawyer. David, tell them they're making a mistake. David just shook his head. Mom, you did this to yourself. As the officers led Veronica toward the door, I spoke up one more time. Veronica. She turned to look at me. You wanted to know about elegance, about class? It's not something you can buy or steal. It's something you earn through how you treat people, and you've shown everyone here exactly what you are. Veronica's face crumpled. They led her out. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then David looked at Emma. Do you still want to marry me? After all this? Emma studied him. That depends. Are you going to stand up for me from now on? Because I can't marry a man who lets his mother walk all over his wife. Yes, David said immediately. God, yes. Emma, I've been a coward. I let her control everything because it was easier than fighting her. But I promise you, that changes today. We're setting boundaries, real ones. And if my mother can't respect them, then she doesn't get to be part of our lives. Emma looked at me. I nodded. She turned back to David. Okay, then yes, I still want to marry you. But we're doing couples therapy, starting next week. Deal, David said. Marcus knocked on the door. Folks, we have 150 guests out there waiting for a wedding. Should I tell them? "Tell them the wedding is happening," Emma said, straightening her shoulders. "Tell them we'll be ready in 5 minutes." The ceremony was beautiful. Emma walked down the aisle on Robert's arm. Veronica's absence was explained to guests as a family emergency. She looked radiant in her dress, every eye in the room fixed on her. My industry friends, the editors, designers, stylists, they knew. They'd seen the dress, they understood what it represented, and they were documenting everything. As Emma passed my row, she paused, looked at me, mouthed, "Thank you, Mom." I felt tears on my cheeks, happy tears this time. The wedding reception was equally beautiful. Veronica's absence was noticed, whispered about, but not mourned. David gave a speech about family, boundaries, and choosing love over obligation. Emma glowed. Elena found me during dinner. "Margaret, that dress is a masterpiece. Pierre did incredible work." "He did," I agreed. "James would have loved it." "The article drops tomorrow," Elena said. "It's going to make waves. Are you prepared for that?" "I'm prepared for Veronica to face consequences," I said. "That's all I wanted." "Well, she's facing them. The charges are serious. Grand larceny, breaking and entering. She's looking at jail time and massive fines. Plus, after this article runs, she's going to be radioactive socially. No country club will have her. No charity board will touch her. She's done." I thought about that. About Veronica in a jail cell, her social standing destroyed, her son setting boundaries she couldn't cross. I should have felt satisfied, triumphant even. Instead, I just felt tired. "Elena," I said, "add something to the article, at the end. Say that Margaret Chen-Laurent hopes this serves as a reminder that kindness costs nothing, but cruelty costs everything." Elena nodded. "That's perfect. Very you." 3 months later, Veronica pleaded guilty to all charges. She was sentenced to 6 months in jail, suspended pending good behavior, 2 years probation, 200 hours of community service, and ordered to pay $75,000 in restitution, the cost of both dresses plus legal fees. Her community service, working at a nonprofit that provided wedding dresses to underprivileged brides. She had to help fit and alter gowns for women who couldn't afford their own. The judge thought it was fitting. The Bridal Vogue article went viral. It was shared millions of times. Veronica became infamous, not for her social standing, but as a cautionary tale about entitlement and theft. Her country club revoked her membership. Her charity board positions were quietly rescinded. Her friends stopped calling. Veronica Ashworth, who'd spent years climbing the social ladder, fell off it in spectacular fashion. As for Emma and David, they're doing well. David kept his promise about therapy and boundaries. Veronica is allowed supervised visits only, and only after she completes her community service and makes full restitution. Emma tells me Veronica has been quieter lately, humbler. "Maybe she's learning something," Emma said hopefully during our last lunch together. "Maybe," I said, though I had my doubts. The original dress, James's design that Veronica stole, was returned to us, though she damaged it by stuffing it in her closet. I couldn't bear to repair it. Instead, I donated it to the same nonprofit where Veronica was doing her community service. They deconstructed it for the lace and beading, using the materials to create beautiful gowns for brides who needed them. It felt right. James's design continuing to bring joy, just in a different form. As for me, I'm not invisible anymore. After the article, my phone wouldn't stop ringing. Designers wanting collaborations, magazines requesting interviews, brides begging for custom gowns. I thought about ignoring it all, going back to my quiet life above the tailor shop. But then Emma said something that changed my mind. "Mom, you've been hiding your light for 10 years. You did it for me, and I love you for that. But Dad wouldn't want you to hide anymore. He'd want you to create again." So I opened an atelier, small, selective. I take on maybe 10 clients a year, all custom work. I also mentor young designers, like Pierre once was for me. And every dress I create, I sign with a tiny embroidered signature in the hem. MCL and JC. Margaret Chen Laurent and James Chen, partners in design, even now. Last week, Emma called me with news. She's pregnant. I'm going to be a grandmother. Mom, she said, her voice trembling with excitement, I want you to design the christening gown, something that can be passed down, a real family tradition. I thought about Veronica, about her family tradition that was built on force and theft, about how she'd tried to create meaning through coercion. And I thought about James, sketching that dress from his deathbed, creating something born of love and hope and faith in the future. I'd be honored, I told Emma. But this time, I'm making two. One for your baby and one to donate. Real traditions aren't about objects, sweetheart. They're about love shared forward. Emma was quiet for a moment. Then, Dad would have loved that, Mom. Yes, I said softly. He would have. People ask me if I regret what I did to Veronica, if I think the punishment was too harsh. The answer is no, not because I'm cruel, but because Veronica needed to learn a lesson she'd spent her whole life avoiding. Actions have consequences. You can't steal someone's joy and expect no pushback. You can't trample people's boundaries and be surprised when they set firmer ones. You can't build yourself up by tearing others down and still expect to stand tall. Veronica thought power came from money and social connections. She thought she could buy respect, force tradition, demand deference. She was wrong. Real power comes from integrity, from knowing who you are and never compromising that for anyone, from lifting others up instead of pushing them down. Veronica wanted to teach Emma about tradition and family. Instead, she taught her, and everyone who heard this story, something far more valuable. Elegance isn't something you wear, it's something you are. Kindness isn't weakness, it's strength held in check. And the best revenge, it's not getting even. It's becoming so authentically, unapologetically yourself that no one's cruelty can touch you anymore. To everyone reading this, I want you to know something. Every single one of you has value that goes far beyond what others can see. Never let anyone make you feel small. Never let anyone steal your joy, your work, or your dignity. And if someone does, stand up, fight back. Not with cruelty, never with cruelty, but with truth, with boundaries, with the unshakable certainty that you deserve better. Have you ever had someone underestimate you? Have you ever been forced to reveal your true power to someone who thought they could walk all over you? Tell me your story in the comments. I want to hear it. And if you agree that people like Veronica need to face consequences for their actions, if you believe in standing up for yourself and others, please like this story and share it. Every person who hears it is one more person who might think twice before stealing someone's joy. Which city are you from? Drop your location below. I'd love to know where my story has traveled. Remember, you are worthy of respect. You are worthy of love. You are worthy of having your boundaries honored. Never let anyone convince you otherwise. Margaret Chen Laurent.